What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. Today I want to talk to you guys about something because the calories in, calories out crowd, whatever you want to call them, followers, admirers, whatever you want to call them, usually like to break things down to where they think a lot of things don't matter. And they always say this doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. And it makes me wonder if they go through their whole life thinking other things don't matter that actually matter. Like, my wife doesn't care that it's her birthday, I'll just let her go by and not buy her a fucking card. It's my mom's fucking having surgery today, I'm not going to call her, it's not a big deal, who cares? Like, do you think that everything is not a big deal? That's my question to people like that, because saying stuff like, wow, it's just not really that big of a deal, is just so fucking asinine, because why would you want to go through your life not doing the best that you can? Why would you want to half-ass everything? Why would you want to water everything down? Including your training, your diet, all of that shit. Why would you want to get slower results? Makes no fucking sense. So, what am I talking about? I have a friend of mine who I'm working with, and he's actually sponsored by another company, so we can't really talk about what we're doing, but I'm taking care of his diet and doing stuff with him and getting him ready for a big event. And he hit me up, and he's very meticulous with his macros. He's very meticulous with his training. He is always on point. So we make little changes. His body just changes like crazy. So he hits me up, and he says, hey man, here's the deal. Like, I was traveling today, so this is what happened. I went over on these, and I'm under on these. What do you think I should do as far as the fact that I'm under fat-wise, but I'm over carbohydrates? No, he was under fats-wise, but he was over fats-wise, but under carbs and protein, right? He said, I've read before that basically I should just, not eat the rest of my, my macros from carbs and protein because I went over on the fat. So calorically it levels out and that stays the same. And I was like, that is what's out there. That is what most people are told because it's all about the calories, right? But we've already proven that someone on keto, their basal metabolic rate is going to be different calorically. Their total daily calorie maintenance is going to be different than someone who's on a carb diet. So therefore, we know the macronutrients work differently in the body and cause two different effects. Just in those two, between fats and carbohydrates, we know that they're both energy sources, but both are broken down two different ways. One's used optimally more than the other. The carbs are easier to use, but fats also are an energy source, right? So now we're basically trying to explain why it's important for each macro to get hit every day and not just be like, I'm 50 grams over on carbs, so I'm not going to have fats or proteins for the rest of the day, so my calories even out, right? Why is that important to not do that? Okay, so we're going to have to break down each macronutrient. So first macronutrient is protein, right? So let's say you're one of those people that's like, I'm just not into chicken, I'm not into fucking eggs and fish and like all the foods that we all eat on these, bodybuilding journey that we're on. And they're more into stuff that contains a lot less protein, So now what happens is they're having a hard time getting the protein. They don't want to do shakes. Like everybody's got some kind of complaint that they're working with, right? So at the end of the day, they're like, well, I'm short 50, 60 grams of protein, so I'm just going to have 50, 60 grams more of carbs, right? So now what happens is they become very regular with that because it doesn't matter. So it becomes a regular thing. They're not strict or hitting their numbers like they should because nothing matters, right? So now what we have is a deficiency in protein. What do you think happens in deficiency in protein over time? You lose muscle, and I mean time meaning a few weeks, not, people seem to think it takes years or months to lose muscle. Most people that are training that are not genetically blessed to maintain and gain muscle, lose muscle very quickly like myself. So therefore, you now have a diet deficient, although calorically it's efficient, right? It's sufficient calorically, you're at your maintenance. However, your protein is not being met. Therefore, you lose muscle, and that actually happens in the fucking real world. And they can't figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, why am I getting weaker in the gym? I'm hitting my macros, and they have all these questions about like, I'm doing everything right. You're not. Actually, that one blatant thing you're doing wrong would make a big difference if you did it right. Now let's go to carbohydrates. If you are over carbohydrate-wise and protein-wise, and you're like, well, I'm just not going to eat the rest of my carbs today. Now, here's the deal. Most people can get by not eating the carbs. However, your body's going to need energy from somewhere to make up that deficit, right? So it's either going to break down body fat to do it, use fat that you've eaten to do it. It could break down protein, but it has the fats, the body fat, so technically it's not starving. So protein-wise, I don't think it would actually convert that to glucose unless there was extra protein left over. So now you just basically have more work your body is doing for the same effect. Whereas if you had just eaten the fucking carbs in the first place, your body's nourished properly. Now we go on to fats. Now this was the big one, right? So fat-wise, like, I'm over, carbs and protein today. I'm under fats. So what I'm going to do is not eat my fats. And a lot of people do this. I'm not going to eat my fats. And it'll even out calorically so that, I'm right there. Now what happens is, let's say you're deficient 20 grams of fat, right? And people don't realize this, that fat is not just an energy source. It actually is required for fat-soluble vitamins to be digested and utilized. Stuff like vitamin E, vitamin D, you need fat in order for those to be effective in your body. Without enough fats, people, I'm sure everybody's always heard of the person who was like a low-fat diet. Their hair was falling out, their fucking skin was scaly, they were injured and their bodies weren't healing. Like, that's from a lack of fat. It produces hormones. It helps with the fat-soluble vitamins. When you're deficient in the fat, you don't have enough of the fat for the fat-soluble vitamins. You don't have enough for hormone production. This affects the way your body works in the short and long term. So you see, guys, it's super important. That's why I keep telling everybody, calories don't fucking matter. And why do I say that? Because if you put your protein where your muscle maintenance is or your muscle gaining needs are, and you set that macronutrient, right? Times that times 4, you have a certain amount of calories. There's no way around it, right? You don't even have to think up or look at calories. You calculate those protein macros, you're good. You move on to carbohydrates. Your carbohydrates are set for your daily activities, what you have to do at the gym, recovery after your workouts, and just your basic daily needs, right? That number is set there. Times that times 4, you have a number of calories. You don't even have to think about those calories, because as long as you set those numbers to your daily needs, those calories are automatically already there. Now we go over to fats. You need fat for fat-soluble vitamins, health in general, hormone production, as well as energy that you're going to be taking in. It's another source of energy. Now, times that times 9, you get a caloric number. Now, again, you don't even have to think about those calories, because as long as those numbers are hit, those calories are going to be there. So when I say calories don't matter, I think people think that I don't realize that these numbers up here exist. The bottom numbers exist and the top. The top numbers exist, however, you don't need those. Those are basic things that are going to be there. Like, if you just went calories, these numbers are not necessarily going to be hit. These could be all over the place, or you could be deficient, but if you hit these numbers, this one automatically gets hit. Those calories are automatically hit. So you don't ever have to think or worry about a calorie ever again if you know how to do the macros. The macros are what's important. It is super important to make sure those macros are hit consistently for energy production, hair, skin, nails, muscle mass, for fat-soluble vitamins to be digested, for you name it, for sleep. If you go on a low enough fat diet for a longer period of time, you're going to not have good sleep. Like, everything gets affected because your hormones change with those macros. Whatever it's deficient in, it tries to make up for, and sometimes it can't. And if you consistently do that, your body gets depleted. When it gets depleted, it can't function properly and doesn't want to function at all. The immune system takes a hit. You get injuries. That's where all the bad shit happens. Or you stop making progress. And then you're sitting there going, Jerry, I don't even realize how I'm not making progress. I should be making tons of progress right now. This doesn't make any sense. I'm doing my macros. I'm doing this. You're not getting it. Like, those numbers that you think don't matter more than any fucking other numbers in your entire fucking program. The weights you use in the gym don't matter. We don't even have to look at a single, don't even look at the machine, the weights on the machine, right? Walk up to the machine, pick the thing, put the fucking pin in, sit down and press, right? Okay, it's too light. Move it down again. All right, it's too light. All right, that's kind of hard. All right, let me fail on 8 here. You fail on the 8th one, you don't even need to know the numbers on there. As long as that weight makes you fail on your 8th rep, you don't even have to worry about the weights in the machine. Those macro numbers, your daily grams of macros, are super important. The most important numbers. They're even more important than the number on the scale you see every morning. That number will fluctuate due to body water, hormonal response, all kinds of different shit. Whether or not you're digesting well, you've gone to the bathroom, those numbers will fluctuate. However, those numbers that'll be set in stone, which are your macros, are the most important numbers to hit to make sure that you're getting progress, that your body's functioning efficiently, and that you are not stalling your metabolism and not worrying only about the calories, which screws this whole thing up. So hopefully this explains to you guys now that I've gone over this over and over and over so many fucking times, and I feel like this time, I really sat back and said, what have I not put out there yet? What have I not talked about that I think people don't know about that would really open their eyes and go, that's why, this makes total sense. And I'm willing to bet you when you see this, many of you that have had problems are going to be like, fuck, that's what I did. Like, I was doing that. My coach kept telling me, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And the fucking progress stopped. Maybe you're not with the coach anymore. Maybe you've been at a plateau for a long time and the coach tells you, just keep going. You'll get through the plateau because the coach doesn't understand it. But finally now, hopefully, you understand it. BioSuitTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BioSuitTraining.com is the blog. It's the You Know It Bicep, and we are out.